Well, I think my work moves in diverse space, like what I call protected space, gallery and museums and public institutions and schools and classroom. And then also on public space. And I think the consideration of public space, it has a very defined situations, defined and indefined at the same time. But where one of the things I feel exclude public space is two things. One is privatizations. It means the corporate economy that in a way define the space in a very, very, very private space, what is supposed to be public. And the other is systems of surveillance and control. In both cases, people are excluded or are in a way under scrutiny of a camera, or the fact you are not welcome because you, in order to use the public space, you need to pay for it. If you go to an outdoor space, and in other moments it could be a park, and now it's a cafe, you occupy a cafe table, you need to pay for it. That's part of the privatization and of the corporative elements of public space. The other side that the rest of the public space, they don't be used as a private space, then it's very much under surveillance systems. That all the cameras control and system of security are making the space that you couldn't call very much public space, because consciously or unconsciously you are under surveillance. Like that, I think these two parameters very much excluded already and make people that really are not participating in the public space like we're supposed to be. Well, any project I could describe, it will take time. And I don't know if this kind of conversation it could be. But I work a project in Istanbul that I was invited for a project living and working in Istanbul. And what they're expecting is to have a public project in the public sphere. And in the 2 years, the first years I spent knowing the city, researching. The second year, it was more to materialize the work. The decision between the first year and second year, it was to identify the group of people to work with them. In this case, it was ASIC radio. ASIC radio is a radio station in Istanbul. In the same way that Anna is working with Urbano as a filter between her and the city of Boston. In my case, the ASIC radio, it was my filter between myself and the city of Istanbul. In this case, there's two things that I think are important elements of working with other people is to, if the work is with the people or the work is for the people. Sometimes are with the people but not for the people, sometimes for the people but not with the people. I think it's very good when the two things happen at the same time. Like that, in ASIC radio, the final work, it's been using for ASIC radio as a 40 minutes identity portrait. They use, because people listen to the radio, they know the radio by sound, but they don't know how the radio is, who they are working, who's the faces behind, who is the site. Like that, I give visibility to the radio, that is a sound experience, by working with them and making a series of of roundtables with the radio. Then it was broadcast, this roundtable, and this material also was the material that generated the film. Like that, if you are interested, I could let you maybe the film, then you could see how the result is. The work is on internet. Actually, if I give you the name, I hope it's still there. But I think it was a good experience because I worked with around 6-8 people. We make a lot of works together, and I think it was a good experience.
Excellent.
Well, I think this is I like to work with the idea of a project. I call my work not necessarily pieces or not necessarily works of art. I like to call projects. And I think in every project it has a characteristics that are diverse. Like that, I will say that in instant to talk globally and in a kind of a standard way, I needed to address for every project, how these issues are pertinent or they are relevant. I think it's not a generic ways to confront these situations. Like every project has its own sensibility and its own situation, and I think it needs to be in the framework of the project. I think these things it could be defined better. And in New York, we was discussing before you come a project that an architect is working here in the public space for Cambridge, and I think I was bringing the idea that New York, the diversity is already there. You take the subway, you don't know. Even they break totally the racial or the stereotypes of the classification of ethnic groups. I mean, you see people that is very difficult if it's Latino, Afro-American, or Asian, Afro-American. I mean, all these groups are melting there.
Right.
And I think it's really after several generations, I think because this is about time, how this melting situation. Well, I think in both cities, New York is extremely touristic city, and Venice is 65,000 people living permanently and a population of 15 million of visitors. That both cities, they have this kind of attract masses of people as a tourist. How these things, I remember I teach in Venice, and one year we put the subject of the class, it was foreigners. And foreigners, it means immigrants, legal, illegal, tourist, mobile. It was 8 classification of foreigners. But of course, it's very different between an immigrant and a tourist, and between a legal and illegal, or between a mobile that is somebody like a student. They are there for 1 or 2 or 3 years, or something that these days is happening a lot, and people working, living in Venice and working for Zurich, or from, because on the computer. That the idea of mobility in relationship with where you live, I think is very, very different. If somebody do because work, of other people they do as a pleasure. As a work, I think it has much more complexity because a lot of people move where their work is. Well, I think this was three P's: political, personal, and professional. I always answer this because it was Franco still in Spain. It's a good reason to live. But also professionally, it was a moment the art world it was open up in a situation in New York that it was pretty unique. And actually the 70s as an experience, it was fantastic experience of generosity and open up the situation. Personal is because one time you decide you want to start from zero and be your own. And sometimes the best way to do it is to go to a place where you don't have any links, you don't have, everything is based on you. And that this was a determination. It was one question here that maybe I could ask something when you say, can artists do to break down geographic, racial, and political boundaries? I answer about the idea of the project, but also it's a little bit of a paradox there, because in a way, in order to break all these boundaries, it seems like globalization, it will be the way, but in another way, globalization brings a lot of standardization and generic issues. Like that, you move between globalization in certain aspects and local in another aspect. Because I think the local aspect is what, in a way, it could be more specific. And then I address again the idea of the project. That it seems like globalization is being accepted not only, I think, in terms of well known as economy, but I think a globalization of ideas, of the ways how information with internet is circulated. But finally, local is super important. And I think in a project, you could work on global projects, but you work also with site or context-specific project. I'm more interested on the second. Well, responsibility of artists, of course. Artists has responsibilities. And I think it's, one responsibility is to talk about the time he lives and the place he lives. Like that, at the moment that you are a possible testimony of that time and that place, you address these issues. And I think, as I say, it's not necessarily as a work about that, but he has the work, he is aware of that.